Gwenpool is a character that on paper I should have hated, but she turned into not only one of my favorite comic characters to come out of recent comics, but also one of my favorite comic book heroes of all time. So with that high praise, why do I say that I should have hated the concept? Well, primarily, she was created as a sort of cash grab. When Marvel saw that Spider-Gwen was getting popular, they decided to make a bunch of variant covers to see what other Gwen versions of popular characters would look like. When Deadpool's Secret Wars came out, it also got the Gwen treatment, and people loved the design of this new Gwenpool person. Meanwhile, I was over here grumbling since Deadpool is one of my least favorite characters of all time, and all of this Gwen stuff was frankly getting obnoxious. So when I heard that Gwenpool was going to be brought into the main Marvel universe in the back of Howard the Duck, I was definitely skeptical, but I'm willing to give any book a shot. What I found was pretty predictable. It seemed like a female Deadpool, a cartoony, violent, memey female Deadpool. I thought, why does this need to exist? Lady Deadpool is already a thing, so just give her a series. I was so turned off that I made the very dumb mistake of giving up on Gwenpool entirely, judging her solely on that one snippet. But like I said, I'll give any book a shot, so when Gwen got her own series, I tried it out and was blown away. The new artists were a Japanese duo called Gurihiru, and their art is amazing. Plus, I really liked the hook of who Gwenpool is. She's a comic nerd from the real world, and while she broke the fourth wall, it was different from how Deadpool does it because she was more grounded. Deadpool has constant meta-awareness and is always making fourth wall breaks, and while I think this kind of humor can be funny, Deadpool almost always tends to be written in a way to where he's constantly doing it. I think Deadpool is a fun character if handled well, or if he's the comic relief character on a larger team, and writer Christopher Hastings' handling of Gwen reminded me of those good Wade Wilson stories. Gwen's book is also different from a Deadpool comic because it wasn't violent and crass. Don't get me wrong, I love media with gratuitous violence and vulgar, politically incorrect humor, but Gwenpool read like something akin to Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was funny, it told a good story, and it was so damn heartwarming at times, especially near the end of the book. Also, because Gwen is from our world, there's a legitimate reason to why she can break the fourth wall. How her meta-awareness functions is also super different from Wade's. She has gaps in her knowledge, being limited to what she knows from before coming into the world of comics, and this is the main reason why I say that she's more grounded than Deadpool. Plus, while there was plenty of humor to go around in the Gwenpool books, it wasn't the kind of random humor that terrible Deadpool writers often rely on. I felt so damn vindicated when Gwen and Wade met up for the first time, and she was powerless to stop Deadpool because she didn't read his comics. She criticized Wilson's books for being too LOL memes for her taste. She also mentioned that his word balloons were probably covering up all of the art. Those are some valid reasons on why I also pass on Deadpool books despite constantly trying to get into them. And I wasn't the only one that thought that Gwen's books were good. She skyrocketed in popularity, with Marvel quickly capitalizing on their breakout star by pumping out merch, throwing her into video game spin-offs, and using her as a guest in other comics. It was here, though, where I started to see problems. The first crossover that Gwen made after getting her own book was in Rocket Raccoon and Groot number 8, and as soon as she burst onto the page, she was just a female Deadpool. Again. It turns out that I didn't like Gwenpool as a character, I just really liked how Christopher Hastings wrote her. I will say though that I really liked this joke about Brian Michael Bendis and his absolute obsession with Kitty Pryde. Moving on to video games, in Marvel Puzzle Quest, why is Gwen able to directly talk to the player in her information tab? That's a Deadpool trait. Gwen's entire thing is that she just has information, and while she would later go on to be able to distort reality in her book, this level of manipulation wasn't something that the character could do at the time. In that moment, this was really out of character. I know this probably sounds like a lot of whining and nerdy nitpicking, but I actually don't like hating on things. I feel like generally that's a bunch of wasted energy. I only care so much in this instance because it comes from a place of love. Thankfully, while these poor depictions of Gwenpool were popping up left and right, Hastings was still delivering amazing work on her solo series. The book was tackling some big ideas regarding Gwen's place in the world and exploring how storytelling works in the medium of comics. When the unbelievable Gwenpool finally ended its run, the conclusion was heartwarming and very satisfactory. You ever watch a good show and even though you'd love to see it continue, the resolution just felt good? Well, that's how this final issue was. But you know when a show gets an underwhelming revival years later and doesn't capture the essence of what made the thing good in the first place? Well, that's kind of how I felt when reading West Coast Avengers. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the book. I'm a fan of both of the Hawkeyes and a good portion of the writing that Kelly Thompson has done. But Gwen was one of the most bland aspects of the title. Her recently concluded series thrived on good character exploration, but a team book format didn't allow that many good opportunities to further dive into that or to show off the impressive reality manipulating abilities that we watched her master. On the bright side though, West Coast Avengers gave us Jeff, Gwen's pet land shark, so that's pretty neat. Needless to say, I was hyped when I heard that Gwen was getting a brand new series. I was even more excited to see that Lee Williams was going to be taking over the writing. I really enjoyed her work on the Giant Man tie-in to War of the Realms and The Extremists, and although I didn't realize it at the time, I had actually read the majority of her comic book writing, but didn't notice until I looked up her bibliography. Oh, and her Twitter absolutely slaps. I had confidence that Gwenpool Strikes Back was in good hands and that it was going to be a return to form. After all, the pitch was solid. Gwen's worried that she'll disappear from comics unless she becomes more important, so she's made it her mission to get actual superpowers. That right there feels very much at home with the themes of her last series. On the day that issue 1 came out, I rushed over to my local comic store and snatched it up, and it was alright. I mean, you just have to look past the flossing and dabbing and the little chibi Gwenpool that seemed super reminiscent of a Deadpool bit, and the out-of-place thought bubble memes, and the pointless cutaway to a derpy yearbook photo, and this really unnecessary bit of shark biology. This is just a Deadpool book, isn't it? Look, the opening of Gwen explaining her deal as a subversive, self-aware commentary on the cape comic genre as a form of Socratic dialogue is super smart, but the rest of the book is just okay. At the very least, it's just not what I come to a Gwenpool book for. But hey, maybe that's just a weak first issue. I made the mistake of giving up on Gwen so early last time, so let's give issue 2 a shot. Bugs Bunny style kiss, here's my butt, admit it, Gurihiru art or nah, you'd still hit it. Literally 2 pages in, and it is still just a Deadpool comic. Oh, Deadpool's in the book now, and Gwen's essentially becoming his protege for the issue. Thanks. I hate it. Issue number 3. The literal first page is a bunch of word bubbles getting in the way of the art, a criticism that Gwen literally had about Deadpool books and why she doesn't like them. It also has a flowchart showing that the only real thing separating Gwen and Deadpool is being earnest. Hell, that very same page has them arguing in caption bubbles. It's just 2 Deadpools now. Gwen has lost any of her central identity. We've seen Gwen go from criticizing LOL memes to becoming LOL memes. I enjoy that humor on occasion, but again, that is not what I come to a Gwenpool book for. I really don't want to sound like an entitled comic book fan, but the entire premise of Gwenpool Strikes Back is basically telling me to stop buying the comics. The entire point is that she'll fade away into obscurity if the series doesn't do well. And even though it sounds really, really shitty, there's a part of me inside that kind of hopes that it does. I'd frankly rather see this character that I absolutely adore die off and become forgotten to time, rather than live on as something completely unrecognizable and something that the original character herself probably wouldn't be a fan of. That's not to say that there isn't an audience for this though. I mean, people love Deadpool, and I don't think anything less of them for doing so. This world is so messed up and depressing that I'm honestly just glad that people can find enjoyment in anything. If it's not actively hurting other people, then you guys can go ahead and like whatever you like. If the market demands for just a reskinned version of Wade Wilson, then yeah, the smart move is to give the people what they want. And although this video is just a bunch of whiny pessimism, I want to make it very clear that I am not giving up on Gwenpool entirely. I mean, at the time of this recording, Gwenpool Strikes Back isn't done yet, but I'd be willing to pick it back up if it does get any better. I have some friends that still read the book, so I'll wait and hear what they have to say and hope to God that I'm wrong. I sincerely hope that I got all worked up for nothing, but until then, only time will tell. That's all I've got for today. It was mostly a very personal rant. I don't like getting this worked up in videos because I don't like disliking things, but I would like it if you went ahead and clicked that subscribe button, maybe ring that bell. Let me know what you think about Gwenpool down there in the comments below. Also, please, for the love of God, go watch my other videos. I would very much appreciate it. Please. But anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully I'll see you next time.